I'm joined by Stessa, Cohen and Ivo Spigel, who were the two original co-founders of FinVino who invited me last year. So, Stessa, you'd like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Stessa Cohen, former longtime Gartner analyst and former bank employee, fintech employee, working in the banking sector for over a couple decades now, on my own, working in this space and also broadening my horizons, as it were, extending beyond the traditional analyst role into new areas.
Wonderful, thank you. And Ivo, yourself?
Hi there, so I'm Ivo Spigel. I'm an entrepreneur, born and raised and still living and working in Zagreb, in Croatia. I've always worn several hats. I've been an entrepreneur for a real long time, starting one of the very first IT companies here in Croatia way back in 1989, longer ago than I care to remember. And I've also been involved with startups quite a bit, way back since 2009, 2010. Wrote a book about the European startup community some 10 years ago, and also involved with fintech and then banking technology, which is how I met Stessa some time ago while she was still at Gartner. And Stessa and I discussing, different things, business, technology, and also culture, somehow stumbled upon a shared interest in not just wine as a drink, but wine as a industry, wine as a tradition, wine making. So somehow we touched upon this idea some time ago of creating a conference, focusing on banking and fintech, but also with a, as we call it, a twist of perspective of wine and winemaking.
Well, let's have to know, Stessa. So, what is the origin story? How did you get together? You were different continents from different cultures. Was wine
Well,
a common factor here, or is it just an event? Yeah.
Well, actually, it was Croatia, a common factor. Long before I visited Croatia, I knew Eva's social platform, and he used to post a lot of photos of where he goes in the summer. And these were just simple photographs taken with his iPhone, and it was gorgeous. When I had the opportunity to go to Croatia, of course, not in the summer, for work, it turned out we had a mutual friend, a Gartner colleague of mine, and we were able to meet in Zagreb. And it was like I'd known him. We had a great conversation. We had great drinks. And during my trip, I was able to sample, not just in our meeting, but all around Croatia, Serbia, wine and spirits. And I actually took back a bottle of, it was Montenegrin wine, which was actually quite good. So this kind of was story in my head. And when I left Gartner, again, I had the opportunity to do new things. And one of them was to reach out to Ivo and say, I have this idea for a conference, a fintech conference that's like different. And, I had joked, I think, online about gin pack or something, but I'm not going to gin, but wine, sure. It just inexplicably came to me as a really good idea. So get a small group of CEOs, CXOs from both banking and vendors and fintechs and VC together, not to pass out business cards, but to actually talk. And what facilitates conversation is food and drink. And personally, the food and drink in Croatia, I mean, there are other countries, of course, was really good.
Yeah. I think, and joke to you, you had me at wine, but my spirit animal was Anthony Bourdain. I'm also sort of a global traveler myself. I've always found that, the breaking bread and having wine amongst often complete strangers is the most incredible way of opening them up to conversation and ideas. And it's a universal language, right? It's something that is culturally and historically a way that we convene and share ideas and laugh. I'm with you on that standpoint. So I get it, but it is a novel idea. And again, with we're in the launch stages of this really in terms of getting this over the line for an event happening in May. I mean, I guess my question being, I mean, I've worked in the fintech industry. I've worked as a journalist, as an analyst, and then more recently on the event side of things. And it is, I mean, the industry is saturated with conferences. You can go to one every day of the week, literally every day of the week. Why did we decide, or why did you decide? I mean, I know I decided, but why did you decide that the industry needed something fundamentally different?
In my experience, maybe not all, but most of the conferences that I've had a chance to attend, or some of those that I've kind of chosen not to attend, have a vibe or an atmosphere that is not conducive to real conversations. So they're, jam-packed with people, jam-packed with talks, and very often you come away from a conference with a bunch of business cards thinking, I met this guy walking from one talk to another. I spoke to him for like 10 seconds, but probably shoot back to him. And then when you come back home, you put all these business cards or contacts or whatever, or LinkedIn somewhere. And most often you don't come back to these people. And the interactions very often tend to be very quick, very shallow, and not very engaging. And especially, many conferences are very, very large, very huge. And, there's hundreds or thousands of people. And then you get a mobile app that enables you to reach out to someone. So Stessa and I felt that in spite of the fact there are so many events, there is still a need for a different kind of event, an event where you would be able to basically not send an app message to somebody, but just sit down with them over, a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, whatever.
Right.
Meaning, everyone in the conference. Because as you know, with larger conferences, the speakers have a speaker's room and you can't get to them. We want to just have everybody, in one place, in one friendly atmosphere. Obviously, for that, you want to have a very small number of people. So, like 100 people max. I like to say people that will fit into one or two buses. And we are planning the conference so that the schedule is relaxed. So there's no pressure. I mean, people will have enough time to have conversations, to go for a swim, or to go for an extended lunch if they like. So, taking something that's everywhere, like events, and making it different. That's what we thought was interesting. And I have to say, so far, many, many people we spoke to said, this is really different. This is really interesting. Let me know. I want to be, in the loop. I want to join.
It's funny. I mean, I think we might have also, we're sort of, I think we're in line with maybe a bit of a cultural, I'm going to use the word zeitgeist, which is, well, check that one. But I think there is a cultural need right now for people to slow down, meet in person, stop the apps, stop the algorithms. Let's just touch grass, hang on, and have natural conversations in their own time rather than what has been effectively speed dating, as you've called that.
Right. Right. And, I mean, the larger events have their purpose. I've spoken at, created panels, and facilitated discussions at many of them. But I also remember the excitement of going to a smaller conference because you do have that intimacy. And I think this is an idea that rose out post-COVID. Not to dwell too much on COVID, but what did we miss? Actually being next to your neighbor or friend in person and getting to exchange ideas. And one of the things that failed really big was meeting your friends on Zoom. And I think also that importance of that one-to-one conversation became even more clear. You want to know other people, in a way that you can't through Zoom.
Ivo, as somebody who's intimately familiar with VAR, why are we picking out a VAR?
Yeah, well, for those of our listeners or viewers that are not necessarily familiar with Croatian geography, Klad is an island on the Croatian coast in Dalmatia. It's by some measures and statistics, the sunniest island in Europe, although we do have some competition in Spain and a few other places. But anyway, It's a really, really nice place. My family comes from there, so I'm not objective. But many of our guests and visitors that arrive agree. One of the let's say motivations was that myself and some friends of mine organized a conference on Hvar some years ago, a focus around startups, which the startup thing was just getting up and running. And this ran for 2 years in a row. And basically everyone that participated asked us later, when are you going to do that again? So it was similar to what we're planning. It was a very relaxed event. We actually had one panel discussion called The Future of Payments, which was taking place by the pool. So some of the panelists were swimming around in the pool. Some of us were on tables besides the pool. And everybody was just saying, please don't take pictures and share on social media because my wife or my colleagues are going to kill me. Anyway, so Holland is a really nice place, but also it has super long tradition of winemaking because about 2,500 years ago, some folks from Greece, ancient Greece, made their way up the Adriatic Sea and actually landed and colonized Hvar and started what is today an uninterrupted tradition of winemaking since those days, including some of the land divisions, the cadastre, which is on Hvar. It's the largest remaining land division in Europe or in the world that still has the original structure, the lots of land that were laid out those thousands of years ago are still functional today, and people are actually still growing wine and olives and other stuff within that map that the Greeks, laid out when they came here at that time.
In a way as well. I mean, again, there's been a lot of, I think, planets aligned. Hvar is kind of beautiful location as well.
Yeah, it is.
But if we're tying into, I mean, what's this got to do with fintech? I mean, I think we're looking at again is what can be learned from legacy industries in terms of brand, in terms of cultivation, in terms of longevity, in terms of everything to do with cultivating a product that stands the test of time rather than, the next two investment cycles.
The synergies between wine and fintech start in Hvar and they just expand outward. I don't know if it's exponential or not, but the more we talked about it and talked to other people and read and researched a little bit, the intersection is almost the same. Many of the recent fintech books that are out there that talk about disruption will go back through the history of banking and financial services, and it all leads to this part of the world.
Just to jump in very quickly, when we're on the topic of banking and financial structures, I don't know if it's good or bad, but one of the people that originally invented double-sided accounting, which not everybody is a huge fan of, was a guy from Dubrovnik, Benedetto Cotrugni. So I'm sure, still numerous junior students or people that are business people and aren't really into accounting, when they saw those double ledger things, they go, God almighty, who invented this? Well, we are partly to blame. Sorry about that.
Well, and also this area of the world is sort of like the meeting of the East and the West too.
Yes. It's also, if we're putting a conference together, which we are, then it's an easy destination for our attendees.
And that's just, nobody we've spoken to has said, oh, that's really too hard for me to get to.
Also, I'm not aware of any other, I don't know how many times I've gone to Amsterdam or Berlin or London or Paris. It's nice to go somewhere a little different, it's like, let's go somewhere properly scenic where we can take a boat ride out, or go off and, explore the mountains, or it's just, it's, I don't use the phrase work hard, play hard, but I think there's a nice balance there. Great hopefully meaningful conversations with decision makers that across the cornucopia of banking and fintech.
Yeah.
We have some really heavy hitter speakers coming in that'll help sort of facilitate that.
Yeah.
But also you've got the downtime as well. It's like make this a destination where you can bring your significant other and have downtime and enjoy the scenery and go swimming in the ocean.
Yeah. And isn't that also another differentiator from many fintech conferences where you come home and you just have to peel yourself, out of the taxi into a house and collapse with exhaustion because you've been meeting and talking nonstop for 2, 3, 4 days.
Yes.
Without that balance, and maybe grabbing a quick snack or a bad coffee
Right.
somewhere. And we didn't want to replicate that environment, but create something special that people would remember. I mean, I still remember meals I had in Croatia. Okay, and that was a number of years ago. And that says something about the cuisine, I think.
And which is fantastic. The meals I can remember from conferences are usually for the opposite reason.
Exactly. Chosen, sometimes you choose meals, what won't make you sick? But, so we wanted that balance. And frankly, as an American, I can say that Europeans can be better at that balance. And certainly Havar is a good way to focus that balance. And I think, CXOs from whether it's a bank or a fintech or venture capital firm, they need that balance to get perspective. Because if you're out of balance, you lose perspective. If you're too much in your own cocoon, you're not hearing other voices, other questions,
Right.
other concerns. And if you're too much, the other way, then, you might be losing your job because you're not focused enough. So how do we recreate that balance? Bring in some new ideas. You're not going to be quoted the next day or no social media posts of you, enjoying a glass of wine and talking to somebody you just met about a really subject that you never
Right.
maybe even heard about before. So without that, you can rebalance. I think this is a real opportunity to rebalance and ignite new thoughts that leaders need to do.
I think it's worth noting as well, and thank you to Eva on this, but we have presidential endorsement for this, do we not?
That's completely correct. Thanks, Nate, for mentioning that. Yes, we've reached out to the president of Croatia, Mr. Zoran Milanovic, and his team, and they evaluated this as a valuable event for Croatia for several reasons. In many ways, Croatian banks and fintechs are quite advanced. So we have a number of fintechs, both independent ones and some very interesting, innovative financial services created by let's say Croatian branches of international banks. So it's a dynamic environment, also technologically speaking. I mean, with most people, when you mention Croatia, most people say, aha, tourism, sun, beaches, blah, 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 which is all well. But Croatia has a very long and very strong history of innovation. Nikola Tesla was born in what is today present-day Croatia. And obviously we have today's, unicorn superheroes, Mate Rimac, and a number of others. So, one of the reasons I think the president's team recognized is that we are inviting people not just to enjoy the sea and the sun, but also as a recognition that Croatia is performing very strongly in the tech environment, in fintech and in other technologies as well, but also for the obvious reason that it's in the interest of our country to have influential business people come here and have an interesting event, conversations that they will then, go back and talk with their peers about that, and hopefully come back next year. FinVino is officially, I think the expression is, well, we have the patronage. We have the office of the office of the president of Croatia, or of the president.
And that goes again to our differentiation. We wanted to reflect where we were. So it's not just, fintech discussions, some bankers, some vendors, et cetera, talking in Croatia, and it could be Disney World for all they know. No, it's in Croatia. They're going to meet Croatian bankers, Croatian fintech, maybe Croatian VC that are the big players in this area, maybe from other countries surrounding. I mean, certainly there's tons going on in Serbia and whatnot, to bring those players in as well and give context. One of the things that Evo brings deep understanding of the ecosystem throughout Central and Southeastern Europe. I mean, of the startups, the technology, the players, and that combined together, I think, is a combustion that appeals to all of the people we want to attract to the conference, sponsors or participants.
I mean, we're clearly psyched about it, and I'll close out this discussion. So, I mean, thank you, Stessa, thank you, Evo, for this. If you want to learn more about FinVino, please check out www.finvino.eu or approach any of us on LinkedIn. We are open to sponsorship and probably some more speakers. By all means, reach out and let's have that conversation. So hopefully see you in Navarre. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Nick. Take care. Bye, Stessa.
Bye.